What's up, everybody? Welcome back to What They Teach You in High School. Hey, today we're talking about the English Enlightenment thinkers' influence on the American Constitution. And if you need to remember one thing about English Enlightenment thinkers, it's that they had absolutely no faith in humanity, and that means you. Welcome back to What They Teach You in High School. Today we're talking about the English Enlightenment thinkers and their philosophies on government. We're going to check out Hobbes and the Leviathan, John Locke and his treatise on government. But first, we have to address something. If this sounds like hell to you, you're not alone. Remember Dante Alighieri? He wrote Dante's Inferno, and he put all the philosophers he could think of right past the main entrance to the gates of hell, as if to say that your life on earth, talking about things without actions, will make you miserable, and you will spend eternity burning in hell thinking about all the things you thought about on earth. Enjoy. So, just like this question, what came first, the chicken or the egg, let me ask a different question. What came first, governments or war? Depending on what you decide, you might align with the English Enlightenment thinkers. First, we need to go way back in time to the year 1215 on the River Thames, when King John was held by his barons and forced to sign the Magna Carta in order to establish the
rule of law.
That's right, the rule of law. And what is the rule of law? The rule of law means that nobody lives above the law. And if you or your brother, even if you're the king, decide to break the law, you should be held accountable. Are governments the reason that we have the wars that we see all around the world? Are they responsible for the mass death? Or are governments protecting us from constant chaos, where people would constantly be in fear for their lives running around? If you look at Hobbes' work, he would explain that man lives in a state of nature without government. But that state of nature is not pleasant. In fact, he describes it as a life that would be poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And in fact, he claims that men living in a state of nature would be men living in a state of constant war, with every man against every man. What does Hobbes mean? He means that everyone will be living in fear if they don't have a ruler to keep them in check. And so Hobbes establishes the idea of the social contract. And the social contract, according to Hobbes, suggests that every human should come to an agreement that they'll shed their pure freedom, aka the state of nature, and instead they'll adopt an agreement, a contract amongst one another, that they will live under a single ruler, in hopes that that ruler will treat them good and provide them peace and prosperity. However, Hobbes says once the people determine that they'll live under a leader, the leader has sole right to govern, to make all the judgments, and the people have no say in how their leader rules. Hobbes explores the state of nature and the state of war in his book, The Leviathan. And what's a Leviathan? It's a gigantic sea monster so scary that everybody in the world is terrified of it. And why would he suggest that our government needs to be like a Leviathan? Because men in the state of nature are mass killers. The next philosopher we need to look at is John Locke. John Locke builds on Hobbes' idea of the social contract, and he also agrees with the idea that man in a state of nature is man in a state of constant war. Locke thought that man had some natural rights. For instance, life, liberty, and, that's right, property. You might have guessed pursuit of happiness, but that comes after. Locke said that all these things are inherent to man. They cannot be taken away. Just like when you walk into your high school classroom without a seating chart and sit down in the exact same seat you sat in yesterday without necessarily claiming that it was yours, people get it. We have things, and those things are ours. Locke said, additionally, that unlike Hobbes, who thought the social contract was just amongst the people and not the government, Locke said that the government has a role in the social contract as well. And in fact, if the social contract is broken by our government officials, then the people have the right to rise up and revolt and overthrow their government. And it's only 100 years after Locke writes this that our very own American founding fathers come together in agreement that the social contract had been breached between the United States colonies and King George, and they overthrow their government. So what's the point? Well, if you agree with Hobbes and Locke that man in the state of nature is a bloodthirsty killer out to take and to steal and to rob, then you would agree with Hobbes that only a great Leviathan, a horrifying, all-powerful government, would be able to keep man in check and to keep man from doing evil. However, if you disagree with Hobbes and Locke, then it is in fact the government that is the root of all of our problems. And if you agree with that, then you should tune in next week to hear our French philosophers, because they basically just go ahead and say that everything that Hobbes and Locke said was totally wrong. We'll see you next time on What They Teach You in High School. Make sure you like and subscribe, hit the little bell button so you know I'm coming. Peace.